Hello and welcome to South Bay Sports Radio. Here's your host, Nick Ingram.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of South Bay Sports Radio. I am joined today by Damian Calhoun of the Daily Breeze. Damian, how are you this fine Thursday, September 4th?
I'm doing great. I was sure it's Thursday. It's been a long week.
You're telling me. You're telling me. All right. We got business to take care of first, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Today's episode is brought to you by Dietz Brothers Music. Now located in Redondo Beach, Dietz Brothers offers private lessons. Your first one is free. Group lessons, band and orchestra rentals, and instruments for purchase. Both of my kids are currently enrolled in lessons here as well. For more information, check them out at DietzBrothersMusic.com. All right, we're diving right in. Let's go. Dominoes have fallen. Bishop Montgomery's football season has been canceled. The big news, Money Man Brett came out to tell his side of the story the other day, and it's a really crappy situation regardless of which way you want to fold it. If you listen to the interview, Brett talks about caring about the kids, and I know we talked about this a little bit, but if you really cared about the kids, you do your research about what the laws and what the rules were. But Damian, let's get your thought process on this before I start to get into my side of it.
Man, where do we start? I think first of all, let's start back going from now going back. Tough situation for the kids at Bishop. Even if they transferred there, whatever, or the kids who are still there, to not have a season. For some kids, it's their senior year. That hurts for them as well. And then we look at the whole situation of, the Money Man. I've heard that name I heard the term Money Man for years. I'm still surprised he went on the podcast with Tarek Fatal and Aaron Talesian over there at the Fatal Factor. But yeah, he laid it all out. What happened at Narbonne, what happened at St. Bernard, what happened at Bishop Montgomery. But it's like wherever he went, there's a trail of devastation that was left behind. The first Narbonne incident, they forfeited games and championships. And then he went to Bern. Their program ended up getting shut down. And it's back to Narbonne. They forfeited games. Kids transferred out, forfeited championships. And now the current situation at Bishop. Played one game. They had forfeited the next two. And now they're done for the year. Their press release said they're aiming toward being back next year. But you know what else comes out of the investigation? CIF hasn't ruled anything about it. So you hope it's only 1 year this year and then back next year, but it's probably not. It's probably going to be a 2-year deal probably. You never know. I don't want to put it out there, but you just never know what else comes out of that. Because even Bishop said there's still investigation going on. Man, who knows? You hope it could be 2027.
Where we stand right now, there's no idea of the ramifications of what's happened with this program. I did talk with a parent who said that there were only a couple of kids that transferred out. So that to me is the biggest thing. But I started hearing about this back in January, where players were moving around, having worked in the area, having lived in the area, having known people through extracurriculars, through jobs, Trader Joe's, working at Rizzo's, and working with the Breeze for so long. It's become something to me where I'm not asking for this information, but people ask me questions like, what do you know? I know a lot of alumni that are either living on the East Coast, living up north, my brother, people that I've worked with at Trader Joe's who've asked me what's going on. As much as I wanted to come out and just give it my side of the story, at the same time, I have a respect factor for the school because the school's motto is seek justice, speak truth, and serve with honor. The fight that ensued in Hawaii, those kids did none of those three things. You take the game out of your hands. You took the game you basically said, I don't even care anymore. And the season's done. That was the last time you saw the field. That was the only time you put on a Bishop Montgomery jersey, a Bishop Montgomery helmet. That's the only time that you were able to represent Bishop Montgomery. The greed factor to me was huge as well. To have a couple parents, to have a couple kids that were so ready to do this just for selfish reasons, that was very hard for me to stomach. At the same time, like I said, with the money man, there's so many things that we don't know about him from, if he's only a gambler, if he's a hedge fund, where all this money is coming from. Like, are you really that good at gambling? Or is it just, you have a lot of money to throw down and then you're like, all right, cool. I'm going to help out these kids that are in my local area. Yeah, I know that Narbonne wasn't very good. I can tell. You can tell every time you walk into that gym, you can tell that Narbonne wasn't very good. If you cared about the school, you'd find a way to upgrade the facilities there. I bought him a washer. I bought him new uniforms. One of the things that I'd heard about was they were going to demolish the entire lower level of Bishop Montgomery as far as the athletic fields were concerned. So football and baseball and soccer were going to be played elsewhere, and they were looking for other places to play. And this was something that I'd thought about, like, where's this money coming from? I know that there's not a lot of alumni that are multimillionaires, and if they are, they've got kids that they're investing their time in. They've got other things that they're investing their time in. And then I come to find out that the money man's involved. And this may have been something that you tie together at that time. Okay, this makes more sense. This is a multi-million dollar facility that you're looking at where, new stands, new football field, the new baseball facility. How is this all going to happen under the spotlight that you're shining on the program now? So I haven't asked anybody. I basically told anybody that I reach out to that I'm not going to put your name out there. I'm not going to put the information out there, but there are a lot of people that are very upset with the situation and understanding that what happened was because a couple of bad eggs ruined the entire dozen of eggs.
Yeah, you talk about the whole structure there. It's like, if you do all that work, that space is not a big space. I know that there's an area sort of on the opposite side of the school, right? That's open area there, I believe.
That actually belongs to Torrance. That sump is Torrance's.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, on the backside. So if you're walking toward the football field on the left side, it's behind Wendy's. Used to be Burger King.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
As far as I know, that's the city of Torrance's, because my brother and a friend of his used to take their motorcycles back there and ride around, and then the cops would show up like, "Hey, you can't ride here."
Yeah, back to the situation. I mean, he said he paid K for a scoreboard, K for grass at burner. It's like, man, where's this money coming from, dude? That's a lot of money.
$1 million. He invested $1 million.
Yeah,
into
$1 million total.
Yeah. He repainted the school.
Yeah, the scoreboard. That's a big scoreboard too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because on one point he's right. Some of those kids he said that he's encountered homeless kids that he's helped out. He said some kids he helped out weren't all starter, what they were third string and needed help or whatever. You never want to see a kid struggle. Okay, I understand that, but man, to do all that, and he said the coaches, he said to no, but I don't know. Something tells me you had to know something instead of, I mean, all these kids are showing up.
And how do you not know with 25 new kids showing up at your door?
That's another thing too. I mean, they were supposed to be more than 25. I mean, during the summer, I was hearing numbers upward toward 35 or something like that. I mean, I've heard a big number was coming in. And some of those names still haven't never hit the transfer page on CIF site. So I don't know if some of those kids who were at Narbonne who didn't make it over, didn't make it into the site or whatever, if they went somewhere else. But yeah, they were pulling kids from all over the place, all over Southern California. There were some Vegas kids, there were some out-of-state kids, which was the same dominoes that fell at Narbonne. Out-of-state kids started coming in, and then all the kids started coming in from Southern California.
I remember at Narbonne, we go back to 2014, 2015, 2016, and a lot of those kids were from the area. You weren't pulling from Orange County. You weren't pulling a Jake Garcia from Long Beach Poly. as a freshman. You weren't pulling from, Canyon or Westlake or any of those schools up there, and then you get Jaden O'Neal, who's an Oklahoma commit coming to play at Narbonne, and you start to think about what's going on behind the scenes. And
well, let's jump back. The second championship year, well, the second one I covered, that's when the out of state kids started coming in. There were some kids that were from, I think, Baltimore or somewhere back east. But then the second time around, as everything, as they got shut down and they rebuilt back up. Last year's team, I don't think there were any out of state kids, but the last year, I think that 18 championship team had some kids from out of state.
One of the biggest questions is, how come Bishop, how come Narbonne, and how come schools not like Mater Dei, how come schools not like Bosco? And I think that we can both agree that these schools are doing it in a way where it's not so many at once. These kids are going to school there from freshman year, and they're staying there, and they're growing through the program, as opposed to showing up sophomore, junior, senior year and looking at winning now.
Well, I mean, there's still some transfers that are upperclassmen at those schools. I used to work in Orange County, so I remember, I think there was a point where Mater Dei said they didn't take senior transfers, but now I don't know if they backed off that statement, but there are a lot of kids who show up sophomore, juniors. One thing, going back to the interview on the podcast, he said that they had two people working the paperwork. He said one was a professional and one was someone who, I guess, a parent or whatever. So, maybe he said the lady, he didn't say names, but he said the professional lady knew what to check for and everything, and the other person didn't really know what to check for. It was a paperwork error. He said all the moves were legit. But you hear about other schools having professional people look at the paperwork to make sure everything's in order before they send it off to CIF.
What this reminds me of is, we're not old enough to remember this, but back in the 70s, there was a gas crunch. And I know that I only know this story because my grandfather worked at a gas station that was across from the Forum, and he would tell me they had two different books. They had a book that they would give to the city, and then they would have a book for themselves. And so they would have the false numbers that they would give to the city to make it so that, they were doing everything, quote unquote, by the book. But then they had their own numbers where they knew what they were doing. It's kind of mafioso, mafia-esque, where you've got your paperwork that you're going to submit, falsified, yes or no, but then you've got the true paperwork that, okay, cool, this is what we're sending in. What are we trying to turn a blind eye to the integrity that we should be upholding? And I know this is a win now society. We're not worried about starting from the bottom. We're worried about winning now. We don't want to build. We want to win now. And I think that's where a lot of this gets lost, is it's not that easy to just win. I have the hardest time telling my youngest son, Dad, I just want to win. Like, I get that, but you have to do the work. You have to struggle. And a lot of times what happens is you're not ready to struggle. You're not ready to fail in order to succeed. Because when you know how it feels to be at the bottom, you're going to appreciate being at the top so much more.
Yeah. That's good. It's like I say, it's everything's societal. Everything's big. We got to do it. Like I say, 2 years ago, Bishop was in the Division 12 or 13 final. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with winning that 13, 12 level. No one's going to discredit your wins. I mean, but to try and make a big jump as they did, that just caused all red flags to go up right away. You hit the 5 kids get denied, CIF makes a visit, and it just snowballs from there, really.
And then the Archdiocese lays the hammer down.
Yeah, Archdiocese as well.
To me, that's, you're involving somebody who has an oversight of the entire school, saying, look, we're done. We've had enough. This is not the way that we want to move forward. Your season's canceled. And that's it.
Yeah. I think one thing we should give more credit to it were those Marine League coaches last year. Grajeda at Banning, Christensen at Carson, Walsh at San Pedro. Who's the other one?
Gardina's coach.
Yeah, Gardena, Monty Gilbreth, who came together and sent a letter to CIF saying, hey, we're not playing these guys.
And Corey's the only one that's still standing. And that's the hardest thing for me to swallow, is having talked to a lot of these coaches, is how quick their administration was to just give up on them, because they were standing up for the integrity of the sport. Like, hey, we know something's going on. We know this isn't right. And we're going to stand together. And it's just a very hard pill to swallow, because it's do as I say, not as I do. And now you're going to get the axe.
Yeah. Yeah. That was unfair, but just for them having the courage to do that. I mean, I had never heard of a league opponent saying, hey, we're not playing these guys. I mean, they stood on it. They stood on their word. Some of them went weeks without playing a game. And that hurts kids who trying to get filmed, trying to get them to college, but they stood together. And I held out.
Knowing you did things the right way is a lot better than cheating and prospering.
Yeah.
I did have something to talk about Ed Hotchkiss. He leaves Bishop Montgomery as the winningest coach in Knights history, probably the longest tenured coach in Knights history as well. He started in 2010. He won 5 league titles, holds the school record for most points in a season with 454. And what makes him stand out to me was not the wins, but the consistency. You know, one of the things that I always got out of him, regardless of if it was a win or a loss, he always treated me with respect, always treated me like I was a player of his. You know, the last time I think I covered a game of theirs, he's like, hey, can you get this guy a hat? We need to get him in more Bishop Montgomery gear. Like, coach, I can't wear it, but I'll rock it. So.
Yeah, I think one final ad. What's next is where all the kids are going to go.
Right.
The kids who are eligible to transfer, because according to CIF, if your program discontinued at one spot, you can transfer over to somewhere else to play.
There was also, before we go, there was also a video that somebody leaked about the meeting that was had yesterday with administration and the players that were still enrolled in the school. And somebody had asked, the 5 players that were deemed ineligible, if they transfer, will they be deemed eligible? To me, once you're deemed ineligible, you're done. But there's also a lot of players, you know, they're allowed to play on junior varsity. But the players they're still processing, I think that might be a little bit of a spotlight on you based on where you came from.
Yeah. And if you're a D1 athlete, I don't think you want to play JV.
No, you might just forego the rest of this season, bulk up for next season, play your senior year, or go to a community college and try to make things better for yourself.
Yeah.
Focus on your studies. You're a student athlete. All right. Quick recap from last week. Damian, you were on the Battle of Torrance, Tartars versus the Warriors. What'd you see?
I saw a pretty tough Torrance team. They were coming off the big win the week before in their opener. They sort of had to grind this one out a little bit. Bunch of two-way guys on there who still stood out in my eye. Von Renner, who's a DB and running back, also plays baseball. Went over 100 yards, had I think 2 touchdowns and 12 tackles, I think, on defense. And then West, it looked like West was playing their first game of the year. They had a bunch. They graduated like almost 20 plus seniors, so they're still trying to find things, figure things out. They were in the game, but they just, you know, couldn't make the big play when they needed to. They had a big game. Jack McGinnis, running back, went over 100 yards. So we'll see how they do this week. It's always the biggest improvement is always from week 1 to week 2, especially when you don't play a week 0 game. So coming off the Torrance game, they go into Peninsula this week. So let's see what kind of improvements they can make. But Torrance looked real good, real solid. Raymond Carter, good job with those guys. 2-0. They're facing St. Anthony this week. I think they're a team to look out for when the Pioneer League rolls around later next month.
St. Anthony's is a good squad. I remember watching them play, and they've got some pretty good, pretty shifty kids on their team. I was at the PV IAA game, and walking up to the field, it looked to me like IAA had the size of a Sarah team. They had some pretty big kids, but PV was opportunistic. They grabbed 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. Ryan Rakowski went off. The more I see him play, the more he reminds me of Patrick Mahomes with a little bit of Aaron Rodgers. He can extend the field. He can pull the ball down when he needs to. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he made this play where he just kind of like dished the ball off that looked like a Patrick Mahomes kind of play to Travis Kelce, where, you're just standing there on the sideline like, how do I even tweet this without live streaming it? Like, how does he do this? PV is going to have a big test against Carson this week, and we'll talk about that in a second. Other notable scores: Mary Starr, quarterback Tanner Rollins threw for 5 touchdowns and 255 yards in a 42-7 rout of East Side Palmdale. San Pedro put up 52 behind a record-breaking performance from Elias Redlew, 202 yards and 2 touchdowns. And North Torrance, they moved to 2-0 with a 52-0 win over Westchester.
Yeah, also, Lusinger put up 60 against Palmdale. Russell Sakona, 6 touchdowns. And then the fallout from the Bishop Montgomery situation, Lusinger was supposed to play them this week. Now they have a bye until they come back next week against Jay Sarah.
Ooh. That'll be a good test for Jason Miller's squad. And South Torrance got a big 28-21 win in their opening game as well. Quick flag football recap. The LA City Football Classic, Redondo emerged as the victors. This was their first tournament as a team, their first time in the LA City Classic. Their defense was lights out, 13 interceptions over the two-day tournament. Sophomore quarterback Blair Nolan was named all-tournament MVP. She accounted for 4 touchdowns in the championship game. They look like a team that's been tested to me, and San Pedro, on the other hand, really struggled once they started making mistakes, struggled with adversity. I sent you my top 10 of the flag football teams in the area recently, and Redondo overtook San Pedro in the top 2 poll. San Pedro's still number 2, but I feel like they've got a lot of work to do in order to not only stay competitive in the city, but in the Marine League, because I know Banning's really good. They've got a freshman quarterback. Narbonne's kind of getting there. But have you taken in any flag football games yet, Damien?
Not yet. But Pedro, they've been to the finals the last 2 years?
Correct.
And then they bounced back early this week with 2 wins, 2 LA City wins. So you can count on them being in the mix once the city playoffs roll around. Marine League, it's going to be about to get to the Marine League, of course. So you can always count on them to be in the mix. Then you look at Southern section, it's like, it's St. Joseph's might be one of the top teams, or then the Trinity League schools after that.
And Redondo's got St. Joe's and Orange Lutheran on their schedule in the next couple weeks.
Well, those are 2 big tests right there. We probably got to get uncovered one of those. So yeah, let's see how they grow against those opponents. If Redondo, they've had good teams in the past. They're one of the teams that they had the first group of players, I believe, when it wasn't really an official sport. Didn't have a playoff a couple years ago. So let's see how they continue their growth this season.
There we go. Quick sponsor break before we get into this week's games. Have you heard about the coaches spread at Rizzo's Pizzeria in Lomita? That's right. You can choose from 3 delicious options: a carb load, a team trio, or a full feast. Prices start at just $9.99 a person. This special is also available for families, but it's in-house only and requires a reservation. For more information or to book your spread, contact Rizzo's Pizzeria today. All right, Damien, where are you at this week?
Friday, I'll be at LA Southwest. Sarah, undefeated Sarah facing an undefeated Los Alamitos. I saw Altenberg at the West and Torrance game, and he said now it started getting real now, because they play Los Al, then they play Orange Lutheran, and then Oaks Christian, and then Sierra Canyon and Mission League play opener.
Ooh.
So that's a tough stretch, but they played Los Al the last 2 years. They come out with wins on both games. Los Al's gonna be a tough squad. I saw them earlier this year against Inglewood. They're gonna be a tough opponent. If the Sarah offense isn't clicking as it did last week against Hamilton, then they could be in trouble. But then again, the defense might score a touchdown or two. Never know. I'm looking forward to it. Good battle. Let's see how it goes.
There we go. I asked Scott Altenberg about what he feels is going to be the key. He said the offense has to grow up quick.
Yeah.
And defensively, they have to be ready for Los Alamitos' offense to throw the kitchen sink at them. I think for a coach that's been in the position that he's in, he understands what he's up against. He understands the kind of program that Los Al is. And the reason that Sarah's playing its games at Southwest is because there was a fire that decimated part of their press box and their bleachers. So they're not playing in Gardena for the foreseeable future, possibly just this season, hopefully not next season.
Yeah, a couple months ago, he said he was hopeful they would get back for at least one game, but you never know.
No.
They're at Southwest now. I know Bishop had some games scheduled for El Camino, so maybe does Sarah move to El Camino or not? I guess that's still to be seen or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it's always you never want to play your home games away from home, but they're at Southwest tonight, and Friday night. So just looking forward to a good battle.
One of the bigger matchups on the agenda is Carson at Palos Verdes. This one matches a Marine League team against one of the perennial teams in the Bay League. First-year Colt coach William Lowe talks about this task as being huge, containing Ryan Rakowski, controlling the clock, forcing turnovers. Guy Gardner, of course, knows Carson to be physical, fast, and relentless. What do you see happening in this matchup?
Containing Ryan Rakowski, that's a big task. That's a tall task. But looking back to last year, PV went to Banning, and Banning shut them down. I think it was a 14-7 game. Carson's going to need a defensive, just an all-out 100% defensive effort to try and slow the PV offense down. Then when they get the ball, they got to punch it in. Chris Field's done a great job early on. I think he has like 10 or 11 total touchdowns. And they beat Dorsey. I saw them last week, and their home opener against Dorsey. They won 20, I think it was 29-0, but it was a game that probably should have been 50 probably. But, they had the early season mistakes, penalties, missed, incomplete passes, things like that. But they're going to need a big effort all around to go up the hill and slow down PV, who you sense that after the Sarah game, they would bounce back against AIA. So now how much confidence did that win give them going forward? Their non-league is still tough after this. They still have Edison. I think they say they play Banning again. So it's still tough after this, but how much confidence did they gain from their win last week? And then one thing Lowe told me, he wanted to do what Birmingham does. Birmingham always schedules tough Southern Section teams. So, they open with Villa Park, tough team. Now they have PV. I think they still have North Torrance on the schedule. And might be one more Southern Section team on there just to get ready for Marine League and City Section playoffs.
There you go. It's a good recipe for success as long as you can take care of what you need to take care of and understand that going into league, we've faced tough foes. Yeah. One of the biggest things I saw in that PV game that I forgot to mention earlier was this defense was opportunistic. They were flying around. This was, multiple hats to the ball. And the one thing that I chuckled about, I know that Dwayne Davis is one of the coaches on the PV sideline from the program, Alvin Mack. His son starts yelling, and I'm like, man, this guy, what's going on? And I'm like, it's like his pops in the program. So, David, if you're listening, I really appreciate the way that you coach, man.
Yeah.
I will be on the Redondo Maricosta game. Costa's won the last 7 meetings. The last time Redondo won was 2017. Keith Elliston says the key is stopping A.J. McBean, slowing A.J. McBean, and the backup running back that they have at Maricosta, and finding some offensive rhythm. He also praised longtime Maricosta coach Don Morrow for always having his teams ready. Redondo put up 6 points last week. Maricosta had a big win against St. Francis. What's the key to this game in your eyes, Damian?
Yeah, I think what Keith said, slowing down McBean. He went for almost 185 against St. Francis. And then also the Meeker brothers also had big games. And then Kingston Davies, looking at his stat sheet, he was all over the field. I know Redondo's missing Bo Osmus. Keith told Tracy McDonald last week that he's out for a while. So they got to find something offensively. Last year's game was, 14-13, coastal one on a late fumble recovery.
Correct.
So in a rivalry game, like they always say, you throw the records out the book, out the window. So it's at Redondo. They want to end the streak, but can they stop McBean? That's going to be a big question.
We could definitely expect a flock to be out there. That is one of the better student sections in the area as well. All right,
Yeah. And
moving on. We've got
one thing.
Go.
One thing, the team play for a surfboard, which I've never seen. I mean, I've been in the breeze almost 10 years now. I've never seen a surfboard. So if you see the surfboard, take a picture of that.
All right, if there's anybody out there that can prove to us that this surfboard is actually legitimate, we need to see it.
It is legitimate. It is legitimate. They did post it. They posted it last year on their Instagram, but I've never seen it up close. So
it needs to be
walked.
Friday. It needs to be walked around the field like the Victory Bell or the Jewel de Shillelagh.
Yeah. Then the winner, you gotta at the end of the game, you gotta take it out to the middle of the field and give it to the winner. And
that's right.
Gotta liven it up a little bit.
You got me chuckling. We went and saw the Fantastic Four movie yesterday, and
all right.
Johnny Fiery goes, "Are you attached to the surfboard, or is it, or is it part of your body? Like, what's going on?" He's like, she's not attached to it." Mary Starr at Valley Christian. I reached out to Tyler Sestich, and he said, this one's personal. He grew up the self-proclaimed biggest Mary Starr fan, watched his cousins lose to Valley Christian 3 years in a row. So 20 years later, he's looking to exact a little bit of revenge. Do we know anything about Valley Christian? Because I know Mary Starr's got some players.
I don't know much. I know there's Cerritos over there. I guess we just focus on Mary Starr off the big game against Eastside. Tanner Rollins had 5 touchdowns in the first half. So they're one of the better offenses in the South Bay. Let's see if they can continue that this week.
With Amari Powell as well.
Yeah, from Carson.
This one will be definitely one to look at. Banning visits that former Narbonne coach, Malcolm Manuel. Nate Hollister says discipline and the run game will be the key for Banning to come out. He also said that Cabrillo has a lot of skill. They're raw, but once they start to get going, he can see this team as being a force to be reckoned with in the Long Beach area. What are you looking at in this game, Damien?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough battle. Like I say, but Banning's off to a 2-0 start under Nate Hollister. Alonzo Ruiz had, I think, another multiple touchdown game the other night against Huntington Park. I think it was Huntington Park.
Yes.
So yeah, it's it's gonna be every time you get those city section, starter section matchups, it's always an intriguing battle. Who can limit turnovers? Who can take advantage of turnovers? So Banning's at home. Let's see how they match up against Cabrillo.
Last one on the list. Inglewood is looking to get on the win column against St. Bonaventure. The Sentinels have scored 12 points in 2 games. They have not lost 3 games in Coach James's tenure. Do you think they can find the remedy?
It's going to be tough. They're playing without Elijah Harmon on the D-line. Quarterback Mason Harvey, who transferred over, he finally got some clarification. He'll be a sit-out. He would go through the sit-out period. So Lincoln John still under center at quarterback. So, I mean, they're home. It's going to be tough. This doesn't seem like the same Inglewood teams of the past few years. So let's see if they can try and slow things down. They've never lost. It's the first time they lost 2 consecutive games under James. I don't know if they've had a 3-loss season under him. He's been there 7 years. I got to look that up. He's never lost to a South Bay team, so that's something to look forward to when Bay League rolls around. But yeah, at some point you think but again, they're playing a tough schedule. They got this one, then they got, I think, Downey the following week, and Arizona commit Oscar Rios at quarterback there. So I mean, they're taking on a tough schedule. But last time I was there, it was a double week 0. They had less than, I think, 35 guys suit up, maybe less than that. So let's see if guys are cleared from then to right now. And if that gives them a better chance here against St. Bonaventure. One thing I want to mention, El Camino opened their season up they're ranked pretty high in the state, 68-6 against Santa Barbara.
Ooh.
and they host Canyons Saturday night. So there are a lot of South Bay kids on the roster. I wish we could cover a little bit more, but we will as the season progresses here. But big win for Elko to start off.
There we go. I will look forward to having Gifford Lindheim on the podcast coming up. I dropped a episode with Miracosta volleyball coach Cam Green. You're welcome to check that out on my YouTube page, on Spotify, South Bay Sports Radio. I did want to get back to Major League ball players in the pros. We got Taylor Rashi from West Torrance, Kyle Karros from Miracosta, Tyrone Taylor from Torrance, Lars Nupar from El Segundo. San Diego has Sean Reynolds from Redondo. Chase Meadroth made his debut with the White Sox this season, and Dominic Smith is currently with San Francisco after bouncing around a couple times. Peninsula's Eli Morgan is on a rehab stint with the Cubs organization in South Bend, Indiana. It's a lot of guys in the South Bay.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who take the next step to go to college and then jump into the minor league system. Minor league baseball is always blows my mind how you gotta go through everything to make it to the majors. But yeah, congrats to those guys for making it all the way to the top.
There we go. All right, Damian, that's going to do it for this week's edition of South Bay Sports Radio. I appreciate you, sir, and we will talk soon.
All right, have a good day.
You too.